The fighting in Ukraine has escalated. Both sides have intensified their assaults. Ukraine claims it launched attacks on multiple fronts yesterday. This includes Kupiansk, Donetsk and Avdiivka. The Ukrainian army also targeted Russian anti-aircraft missile system, anti-tank weapons, multiple rocket launchers. Russia is saying that it repelled all those attacks. Last night, Russian air defense forces shot down a number of Ukrainian drones in Beglorod and Kursk regions. It also hit base stations for electronic warfare, ammunition depots, drone factory. In the Ukrainian city of Dnipro, a Russian missile attack damaged an educational facility, injuring 18 people. Russia has been launching attacks deep into the Ukrainian territory for long. Now Ukraine is also showing that it is capable of doing the same. The war has escalated well beyond the front lines. Here's what the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, had to say.
Dear Ukrainians, rescue operations are currently underway in Dnipro after a Russian missile strike. In particular, buildings of a college and a kindergarten class have been damaged. All services are on site. I think everyone who is responding, who is going to the strike sites in order to provide assistance to people as quickly as possible. This is the most important thing. Equally important is that the Russians are receiving responses to their strikes. Each time, longer-range responses.
He is talking about longer-range responses within Russian territory. Case in point, a Ukrainian drone struck Russia's third largest oil refinery in the Tatarstan region yesterday. It is some 1,300 kilometers from the border. According to Ukrainian intelligence sources, the drone hit the primary refining unit and caused a fire. This particular unit processes about 155,000 barrels of crude oil per day. It accounts for around half of the plant's total annual production capacity. Now, another intelligence source has claimed that Ukrainian-made drones also hit a Russian plant producing long-range Shahed attack drones. You see, in recent months, Ukraine has started attacking oil refineries in Russia. It aims to affect Moscow's highly lucrative trade in refined products. According to Reuters estimates, around 14% of Russia's refining capacity has been shut down due to Ukrainian drone attacks. And this comes as Russian missiles have been targeting Ukraine's energy grid. Meanwhile, Ukraine is asking for all hands on deck in hopes to generate more fighting power. President Zelensky has signed a bill to lower the mobilization age for combat duty from 27 to 25. It had been on his table since it was approved by lawmakers in May 2023. What prompted him to sign it now? That is not clear. In fact, the signing of the legislation was not immediately announced by the president's office. The parliament merely updated the entry for the bill on its website, which read, "Returned with the signature of the president of Ukraine." The question is Zelensky trying to keep it low-key? Because the people of Ukraine are not interested in serving in the army. They have been trying to evade conscription for a while now. The bill is only going to be condemned owing to its unpopularity. Zelensky has separately signed a second bill. It calls for men given waivers from military service on disability grounds to undergo another medical assessment. He also signed a third bill aimed to create an online database of those eligible for military service. But a string of strict measures set out in an earlier draft of this bill were removed following a public outcry. You see, Ukraine is desperate to recruit soldiers, and that's only a part of Zelensky's many troubles. Ukrainian troops are on the back foot on the battlefield. They are facing a shortage of ammunition supplies with vital funding from the US blocked by Republicans in the Congress for months now. The European Union is also failing to deliver promised ammunition on time. NATO members are also mulling on how to put military support for Ukraine on a long-term footing. This includes a proposal for a 5-year fund worth $107 billion. After telling you what's going on in Pakistan, let's now tell you about what's happening on the other side of the border. The story is completely different. Kashmir is experiencing a tourism boom. In fact, in a historic achievement, the Gulmarg Gondola, which is one of Asia's highest aerial ropeways, has seen over 1 million tourists and locals enjoying rides. As a result, the Jammu and Kashmir Cable Car Corporation's revenue is more than 100 crore rupees. The tourist footfall to Kashmir has increased thanks to the Gulmarg Gondola. It has breathed new life into the valley's tourism sector. Now, this is no small feat. The cable car is located in deep Himalayas. It has given impetus to tourism in these areas. This is the story of new Kashmir, the story of progress, of development, of Kashmir becoming a global tourism hub. And given the history of conflict, of shutdowns, and of Pakistan-sponsored terror activities, particularly in the Kashmir Valley, the number of tourist arrivals has been often seen as a marker of peace in the region. You see, since the scrapping of Jammu and Kashmir's special status, New Delhi has laid a massive thrust on not only developing this region, but also attracting more and more tourists. Just take a look at these numbers. It shows a surge in tourism and the surge in the number of tourists to Jammu and Kashmir. In the year 2022, the Kashmir Valley witnessed the highest ever arrival of tourists. At least 26.73 lakh tourists made a trip to Kashmir. Of these, at least 15.42 lakh made it to Gulmarg. Then last year, in 2023, the number of tourists who visited Gulmarg crossed 16.5 lakh. While earlier the choices for accommodation were far and few, now the people of Kashmir are opening up their homes to tourists. And this has boosted rural tourism, which in turn is generating employment. But you see, it's not just the tourism sector. The influx of tourists has breathed new life into local economies as well. Visitors are traveling far and wide, deeper into the Kashmir Valley, giving shape to a vibrant ecosystem of rural tourism. People want to visit the border areas, including Tehran, Tangdar, Bangus Valley, Tulel, Uri. At one time, these areas were scenes of conflict. The increase in tourists directly coincides with an improving law and order situation in the valley. The widespread crackdown on separatists and what authorities call the terror ecosystem has put an end to a culture of frequent shutdowns. The overall security situation in the valley has considerably improved. Given Kashmir's past, this new normal is not something to be taken for granted. Although experts say that the revival of terrorism is unlikely, because number one, Pakistan's ability to destabilize Kashmir has substantially diminished, and number two, India's security grid has been strongly consolidated. The sentiment on the ground is also positive. Militancy has rapidly declined, apple trade is flourishing, local businesses are earning more, and tourism is taking the lead. In fact, so many tourists are visiting the valley that in some instances, tourists have been shifted to homes as hotels and guest houses run out of rooms. This is the difference in Kashmir. In fact, after the scrapping of Article 370, the voters of Jammu and Kashmir are gearing up for their first major election. How many of you have grown up wanting to be Roger Federer or Sachin Tendulkar or Mary Earps? Hope is eternal, and what do they always tell those who did not make it? Don't be sad. Those athletes have God-given talent. Now, researchers at Trinity College Dublin claim there is something else that separates the good from the great. It's called visual perception. Now, if you watch sport keenly, then you would have heard pundits say the best always have an extra second. cricket legend Sachin Tendulkar has almost godlike status in India. Remember that perfect straight drive or the cover drive that left fielders standing at their positions as the ball sped past them to the boundary? Let's switch sports. We don't need an excuse to talk about Roger Federer's single-handed backhand. There aren't many who play with a single-handed backhand in men's singles, yet the Swiss maestro made it an art. And headlines have been written about the beauty of Federer's backhand. Why is Shohei Ohtani so terrific in baseball? There are countless others who play the sport professionally, but how many of them have a $700 million contract? And why do some goalkeepers make gravity-defying saves in football when their other counterparts are well beaten? Let's break it down for you. Researchers say they have figured out how certain individuals perceive rapidly changing visual frequencies better than others. That's the split-second advantage that is vital in sports where hand-eye coordination matters. Those in the lucrative world of gaming also possess these abilities, in fact. Most of us use computers or tablets or even mobile phones, right? These devices process information by a method known as the refresh rate. Similarly, the Federers and Tendulkars of the world see more images per second than others. Researchers have used the critical flicker fusion threshold to come to this conclusion. Let's simplify it by calling it the blink, and you will miss it experiment. Subjects were basically asked to look at a flickering light source. Most of them perceived light as completely still when it was flickering 35 times per second. But a few of them could see the flickers even at a rate of 65 times per second. They quite literally are the real-life Barry Gordon or Flash. They see the world faster than others. So don't beat yourself up if you cannot hit that perfect cover drive or a single-handed backhand down the line off a 200-kilometer-per-hour serve. It seems the Federers and Tendulkars were born with it.